The cabin of first class shimmered with soft, golden light as passengers settled in, glasses clinking with pre-flight champagne. Businessmen loosened their ties. A celebrity tucked into a corner, sunglasses on. And then, silence. A flight attendant in a crisp red scarf leaned over a poised black woman dressed in an elegant navy suit. The woman had just placed her leather bag beneath the seat when the attendant's voice cut through. "Ma'am, you'll need to move. This seat is reserved for a preferred passenger." The woman froze. Her ticket clearly said 1A, VIP, window seat, prime spot. But in that instant, dozens of eyes turned. Some passengers smirked, others pretended not to notice. The woman's calm, dignified presence only seemed to irritate the attendant further. "This isn't your seat," the attendant repeated louder this time. "You'll need to step aside." The woman inhaled deeply. She adjusted her cufflinks, lifted her chin, but the humiliation was already burning. Whispers rippled across the cabin, phones discreetly lifted. And yet, what no one knew, not even the smug attendant standing over her, was who this woman really was. The setting was one of the most exclusive first-class cabins in the world. Polished leather, chilled wine, flight attendants trained to treat every seat like royalty. Here, image was everything. Every detail screamed status, from the silk pillows to the way passengers carried themselves. It wasn't just a seat, it was a symbol of power. And in this arena, every slight, every gesture carried weight. Passengers glanced sideways at the commotion. A silver-haired banker shook his head as if to say, "She should just move." A young couple whispered, unsure. One woman discreetly slid her phone out, recording under her blanket. The black woman stayed seated, her voice firm yet even. "My ticket is for this seat." The attendant's lips tightened. Her tone sharpened, dripping with condescension. "Ma'am, please don't make this difficult. We have someone more important boarding." More important. The words stung like poison, hanging in the air for everyone to hear. The cabin was no longer just a luxury space. It had become an arena, with passengers silently picking sides. But this was only the beginning. The moment before the storm. This flight attendant wasn't new to this game. She'd been with the airline for nearly a decade. Her reputation? Meticulous service for those she deemed worthy, icy dismissal for those she didn't. She had her list, the VIPs, she treated like royalty. The ones who tipped big, flaunted titles, or, more often than not, simply fit a mold. Wealthy. White. Male. To others, she offered the bare minimum, masking bias with a professional smile that never reached her eyes. Coworkers had noticed. Whispers circulated. She rolled her eyes at certain accents. She gave extra champagne to men in suits, ignored women traveling alone, especially women of color. But arrogance had blinded her. In her mind, this woman in 1A wasn't supposed to be here. She didn't look like the kind of person who belonged in the airline's most coveted seat. And so she made a choice, to flex power she thought she had. What she didn't realize was that the very person she tried to humiliate was not powerless. Not at all. The woman sitting in 1A wasn't just another passenger. Her name was Dr. Maya Ellis, CEO of a Fortune 500 tech firm, a woman who had shattered ceilings her entire career. She had grown up in a working-class neighborhood, the daughter of teachers who taught her that dignity was worth more than gold. She knew the sting of prejudice early, the way teachers questioned her abilities, the way doors closed in her face. But she had fought. She earned scholarships, worked late nights, and built her company from a tiny startup into an industry leader. Every boardroom she entered, she carried the weight of being the only black woman in sight. And every boardroom, she refused to bow. Maya had learned to endure humiliation with grace, but never to let it stand unchallenged. Her strength wasn't loud, it was steady, grounded. And now, sitting on this plane, in this seat she had paid for, she felt the old sting of dismissal rising again. What the attendant didn't know was that the strength Maya had built all her life was about to become her undoing. The attendant's voice grew sharp, slicing through the luxury silence. Security will need to escort you if you don't comply. Gasps flickered across the cabin. A businessman muttered, "This is ridiculous." Another passenger, phone in hand, whispered, "Keep recording." Maya sat still, composed though her jaw tightened. The humiliation weighed heavy, but her eyes never dropped. "Ma'am," she said softly, "I have the right to this seat." The attendant smirked, almost triumphant, and turned to flag another crew member. "We need to move her. Now." The second attendant hesitated, eyes flickering nervously between Maya and the boarding gate. Passengers shifted uncomfortably. Some avoided eye contact, unwilling to get involved. Others leaned in, waiting for the spectacle to unfold. It looked, for a moment, as if Maya would be forced up. The attendant's voice had authority, and her arrogance carried the weight of someone who thought she couldn't be challenged. But just when it seemed Maya had no power left, she reached calmly into her bag. And with one phone call, the script was about to flip. Maya dialed a number with steady fingers. The phone barely rang once before someone picked up. "Ellis here," she said, her voice low but commanding. "I'm on flight 247. There's a problem with your airline service." A pause. Then the quiet, urgent response of someone who knew her name carried weight. "Yes, Dr. Ellis." "What's happening?" The attendant scoffed. "Making calls won't change the fact that." But then, footsteps. Heavy, quick, purposeful. The captain himself entered the cabin, his hat tucked under one arm, eyes sharp. Behind him trailed a senior manager who had been at the boarding gate. Both wore expressions of concern, not for Maya, but for the mistake that had just been made. "Dr. Ellis," the manager said, voice respectful, almost reverent. "We apologize. Please remain seated. There has been a grave error." Gasps erupted. Phones lifted higher. The attendant's face went pale, color draining as realization set in. She's just..." the attendant stammered. "No," the captain interrupted coldly. "She's the CEO of our largest corporate partner. And you've just humiliated her in front of a cabin full of witnesses." The silence was deafening. Every passenger was glued to the scene. Maya didn't gloat. She simply placed her phone on the tray table, folded her hands, and met the attendant's wide eyes. "This isn't about me," she said quietly. "It's about dignity. Respect. Something your airline promises, but you just violated." The attendant opened her mouth, closed it again. For the first time, her authority was gone. Passengers whispered, "She's the CEO? She runs the company that partners with them? This is going viral." By the time the truth spread through that cabin, the attendant's career was already over. The video hit social media before the plane even landed. Clips of the confrontation, captions reading, "Black CEO forced out of her seat until this happened." Hashtags exploded. Hashtag CEO justice. Hashtag fired at 30K feet. Hashtag dignity first. News outlets picked it up within hours. Headlines screamed, "Airline in crisis after VIP humiliation." Talk shows replayed the footage, commentators dissected every word. The airline scrambled to respond, but the damage was done. Within 48 hours, a public statement confirmed the attendant had been terminated. And Maya? She didn't need to gloat. She let the truth speak for itself. But beyond the punishment, something larger had taken root. The conversation had shifted. People weren't just talking about one flight. They were talking about respect, about bias, about the everyday humiliations that too often went unchecked. And the lesson was only beginning to echo. Maya later spoke in an interview. Her words weren't about revenge. "It was never about a seat," she said. "It was about what that seat symbolized. Dignity. Equality. The right to exist without being told you're less than." She explained that her silence on that plane wasn't weakness, it was power. The decision to act calmly, to expose injustice with composure, had carried more force than anger ever could. Her message was simple but profound. We can't always stop prejudice from showing up at our doors or on our flights. but we can choose how we answer it. And when we answer with dignity, we strip it of its power. Her words inspired thousands. They became a rallying cry. Because this wasn't just her fight. It was everyone's. And so, the story of a black CO in seat 1A became more than a flight incident. It became a mirror, reflecting a truth too many already knew. Injustice doesn't always come with loud words. Sometimes it's a smirk, a dismissal, a quiet attempt to move you out of your rightful place. But what matters most is refusing to move. Maya's stand reminded the world that dignity isn't negotiable. And when someone tries to strip it away, justice has a way of finding its voice. Now I'll ask you. If you had been sitting in that cabin, would you have stayed silent, or spoken up? If this story moved you, don't let it stop here. Share it. Talk about it. Subscribe for more stories that expose injustice and uplift resilience. Because silence allows injustice to breathe. But together, we can make sure no one ever looks away again.